because it's an important point. So your opportunity index, when you put that out, we had some really interesting players and how you viewed them. And
Yes.
we know things change. Mixon getting bad reports and Chubb getting,
Getting hurt. Yeah.
everybody getting that changed it. But what I saw this year, it seemed like everywhere I looked, everybody was ending up where you were already at in
Yeah.
May,
It,
and I didn't
yeah.
like that. I wanted to be asleep, right? I'm greedy.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Dennis, we're going to have to be thoughtful. And your comment was, well, maybe we need to draft back earlier. And then it
Yes.
says, well, maybe if this continues. So, when you said that, I said to myself, I'll do another year, you know, late. And if I
Yes.
am not, this year and next year is not successful like I was then I might do another experiment of early, mid, and late just to double check, has something changed? You
Yeah,
know,
and my earliest team, and this year on FPPC, I dated every one of my teams.
that's good.
Okay. Every team name is the date that I started drafting that league.
Right.
And you can see my my earliest ones were best balls because I always start with best ball just to exercise the brain.
Mhm.
That started in April 30th was my earliest FPPC best ball,
Which is aggressive.
which is aggressive, but it was just my way of getting my brain going. I did, I think three. I did three of the $5 slims before I started in on drafting real teams. My earliest real team I drafted was May 27th, and that team ended up with having Brooks and on that team. I did not get some of the other earlier RBs because I hadn't finished the opportunity index until June. So what this study is going to do is if I look back and see when I published the opportunity index data, when you challenged me to put percentages like I was gambling, like I was putting a bet
Well,
on
it's
it,
probability.
probability, thinking in probabilities, you made me do that. It was obviously a great idea, which is why I did it, but you were the one who came up with that idea. By dating all my teams, I can see where my optimal value on those late running backs was, but it's the mentality thing because I'm not only looking, opportunity index is obviously looking at the top of the roster, but when I'm looking and analyzing rookie running backs to put in that late five, I'm looking at guys that I know are going to hit the second spot on the depth chart. Does this guy have a path to the second spot on the depth chart? If he does, I want him on my team because we know injuries happen and we know guys just get beat out. Like last year, Bucky Irving and Chase Brown, I was if we had done that percentage game the year before, it would have been like 80 to 90%. That's how sure I was of those two guys. In one was Bucky. I thought he was an incredible football player who just grades poorly in combine stuff. But in real football with pads on, he looks faster than he does when he's in shorts. It's just one of those players who is built for football. There's the guys in the shorts that look good in the shorts and t-shirt and can run really fast at the combine. Sometimes they slow down in pads and a helmet, and they
Right.
slow down when there's defenders out on the field, more so than a Bucky Irving who, it's like when you're watching a horse race and you're seeing that horse come from seventh place in the stretch and he's passing all these horses like he's flying. And then you look at the final quarter time and you go, okay, all of the leaders were backing up. They were slowing down. It wasn't so much that this horse was a great closer, it was that he held on to his speed and the others lost speed. That's what happened with Bucky Irving. Chase Brown was just a lock, man. I love that kid coming out of University of Illinois, mainly because in addition to being great running the ball, he was really a good pass blocker. And in the NFL, that's so important. If you don't block, you don't get the rock. It's the oldest saying in the business. And so those two I would have put 80 to 90% on with no problem. And this year, people were saying, who's the Bucky Irving? Who's the Chase Brown? Really isn't one. But there's other variations of that. There's guys I like late. And the guys I liked late included JCM, included Ollie Gordon, Woody Marks, who have all emerged as top guys. Now, I also like Taj Brooks. I like Hunter from LA. I do like Mullings from Tennessee if something happens to Pollard. And I like Monanjay with Chicago if something happens to Swift. But notice I said something has to happen to somebody else for them to get that role. The closest that I had to a Bucky Irving this year was Trevion Henderson with New England. He's coming into a situation where Ramondre Stevenson is not a bad back. Rashad White down in Tampa is not a bad back. They're just not dominant backs. And when I did that study that showed that everybody who'd been replaced had a season under 100 in MVP, that set the bar a lot higher than I ever thought. And doing that study and having you make me put the percentages on, it was quite the exercise, because if you're going to commit to a percentage, to putting a bet on a guy, you have to do even more research. And that's what I think led to more success this year. And I equate it as more success because these guys went up huge in the ADP.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, they didn't really adjust much. They came up maybe 5 spots.
Yeah. This year it got crazy.
JCM came up 7 rounds.
Yeah, that's just crazy, Dennis.
And even Hampton came up about 30 spots. Henderson, who I think has a better opportunity than Hampton this year, he came up like 15 spots. So, he was still a value at the end of the drafts. And I'm not saying that Hampton, with the Chargers is going to be a bomb. I'm just saying it's a split backfield, and we're not sure how that split looks yet. And, everybody got so excited when Najee Harris got hurt. He was the pirate, he's the one-eyed pirate. And now all of a sudden he's going to be playing week 1. So, we got to watch how we overreact to things.
Yeah.
My better than zero strategy is really simple, though, Professor, because it rewards us when I'm wrong. Even when I'm wrong, it rewards us because I don't have to be perfect to be rewarded. You take enough shots and you take smart shots based on that opportunity index, and the next thing you know, you're cashing checks because these guys are coming up. And there comes a time with the drafts, like JCM was on a lot of my teams early. As he's risen, I'm taking more Eckler because I think Eckler might be the value now. But it was an interesting process this year, Professor. I'm glad you challenged me to put percentages on.
Yep.
At the time, I was cussing you out because it was a lot of work.
It is a lot of intellectual work. I think people that I've seen, and I know there's sharp folks, and I hope a few of you are listening. If you've got some feelings, and Dennis said, well, I have a feeling about this. Well, put numbers to it, and then manipulate those till it looks right. I think that is how you can quantify and look over time. And again, this all goes back to my time with the Good Judgment Project that I was a member for 1 year, and I've learned quick I was not able to forecast a Russian ruble 6 months in advance. But I'm telling you, I mean, they were looking for CIA level people that are just, beyond my thinking, Dennis. But that's what they did. You were given some money and you were to assign based on your probability of this thing happening or not. So you were forced to think about the probabilities in that. And like I said, I think the guy now has a company that companies can go to this guy and he'll come in and apply those principles that he learned, including the existence of super forecasters
Yeah.
that were found. But I mean, I don't think people should be astonished. I mean, I'm a biologist, and I know in any population, there's going to be some people that you look at them, it's like, man, they're faster than they look, or they're stronger than they look, or they can jump higher than you would predict. There's just something about variation. And I would say the people that do film and these kind of metrics, Dennis, I think they need to really track their metrics, that, well, he looks good on film. Well, what does that mean, looks good? And
Yeah.
I think people in horse racing, I know body language people, I've read books on them trying to identify certain key aspects. And no, it's not looking at you and winking like bet on me, and they're shaking their head, yes, bet on me, but just their shine, the way they're stepping, their tail, their mane. It was really interesting reading some of those books in the 1990s. And I don't know if anybody ever assigned numbers and actually tracked probabilities. So either they did and went quiet, or it didn't work. And, you know, you'll never, nobody likes to publish negative data. Well, folks, can you imagine some new stat, Dennis, and we were talking about air yards before. Can you imagine somebody invented, air running yards, whatever that is, and they talk a lot about it. Then all of a sudden next year, they're, crickets. Well, did they figure it out and they're making money, or it's like, oh no, this sucks and I can't. In other words, they're not going to stand up. Yeah, folks, I was a big fool, touting all this. Y'all got me. I did not know my ass from a rake. Y'all just need to move on. I blew it. Who's going to do that in fantasy football, Dennis? Who
Oh
who
no.
would do that? You
No,
know,
nobody's honest enough.
nobody's going to do that. So
Yeah.
what happens is somebody else well, this one's got air stepping yards. Oh, okay. Higher, the higher his gait, or it's like a horse here. He stretches long. He has a stretched neck, right? It's what D. Wayne
Yeah.
Lucas said. He only bought horses that had a long neck because he figured when they were stretching, they would win these nose bobs. And it probably makes sense, The guy, I mean, the coach won so many Triple Crown and had these long neck horses. You wonder if he didn't have something there versus short neck horses. If you're
Yeah, the
battling and your neck's longer, at the right bob, your neck's going to stretch out for that finish line. I like that. It tickled me. I don't know if he ever tracked that data, but
and the
he was measuring, took a rider's crop and was measuring. And so when he went and bought horses back in, his heyday, he would get that measurement. I just wondered, I'm surprised they hadn't, measure gait. And I figure with AI, Dennis, they'll figure out a way to measure, how high they step. High steppers are good on grass, or high steppers
Yep.
do good
Yep.
in domes, or during ice, high steppers do. I'm just ready for some of these exotic things that are coming. That you heard it here first, whatever it is. But if it doesn't work, you're not going to hear about it. Somebody else is going to pick it up, and then it's just forever in the deal. Nobody ever
Yeah,
gets rid of it. Like
yeah.
zero running back, it's never going anywhere.
No,
There's
no.
always going to be people versus hero running back. There's always going to be people fighting for those methods. And I believe you and I would say you just were adaptive at the right time in the right draft
Correct.
with 11 other people. I think Mike Reedy would
Correct.
probably agree. And it
Yes.
just turned out that picking two early running backs was the right adaptive strategy, right? It just turned out that year. So how much has just turned out that year versus actually is going to just faded to work? It sounded like when it first came out, well, this is a, no brainer. If everybody does this, no. If everybody, all 12 of you do it, it's not going to work, Dennis. All 12 can't win. So
No,
something's
it's
going to happen. And I've
yeah.
heard you say this before,
Oh yeah.
and I know Mike Reedy's on board with us on this. That's why we all agree that adaptive strategy, we call ours better than zero. Mike just calls his adaptive strategy, is, that is the way to go. There's no set pattern, just a philosophy about what you're doing during the segments of the draft.
Yeah, and each each one of your rosters should look basically different based on where you're drafting, because your ADP study
Uh-huh.
showing, every year it's a new study because every year the ADP is different. But to understand, okay, if this guy is valued as the 15th running back in the league, where is he going? Well, I don't have to guess what round he's going
Right. You
because
can
I
see it.
know where he's going. And the reality is, if it shows, if the data shows that the 15th running back is going at, you know, pick 38,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden you're in an earlier running back blitz of a draft,
Yeah.
he's still going to be the 15th guy off the board. So once
Yeah.
14 is gone, if 14 is gone after 22 picks,
Yep.
now he is not of value anymore
Nope.
versus if he was going in a normal draft. So that's what you have to do. Funny horse race bit for you, about spotting tendencies at the track. So there was this great trainer. He'd occasionally drive his own horses, but usually he had Walter Paisley driving for him in harness racing on the Chicago circuit. And the trainer's name is Mark Franson. And Mark Franson, he looked like Pigpen sometimes from the Peanuts. Like, he always had dirt. This is a working man. This wasn't a trainer that left all the heavy lifting to everybody else. He was out there mucking stalls and, doing whatever. So by the time the races started on a given night, and he'd usually, on a Saturday night, he always had higher end horses, so he'd have 5 or 6 entries at least, that he was training on a particular night, 10 race, card out at Sportsman, and quite often he'd have an entry in the stakes races. But if Mark Franson showed up before the big stakes race of the night, the big featured race, the $100,000 stake race, if he showed up with clean pants on,
Yeah.
you knew he was planning on going
To the winner's
to
circle.
winner's circle.
Yeah.
So if you saw, all of a sudden you'd be hanging around and you'd be looking, out towards the paddock, the paddock entrance to the track, and all of a sudden you'd see Franson there guiding his horse onto the track, and he
Clean
was
pants.
clean. He had
Yeah.
clean white.
You better go
Beautiful
clean
white
up at
pants.
the tote board, at the windows.
I'm looking at the odds right away, and I remember doing this one time, and Paisley was driving. Franson had driven the horse the previous 2 races. It was a trotter in this stakes race, and Franson with clean pants and Paisley getting on this
Felt like a
horse, driving this
1-2
horse.
right there.
And he was 5-1. And I remember thinking, people are going to be really upset. But there was an out-of-towner coming in that was being bet down like heavy favoritism. I'm like, Franson's winning this one tonight. Now he's got 2 horses in the race, so I have to figure out which one. It was an uncoupled entry for the trainer, 2 different owners.
Yeah.
And I have to try to figure out, but Paisley's driving one for him, and that was his man. And I'm like, 5-1 on Paisley in a stakes race all night long. He won like a champ. But it was the clean pants angle. Like, it had nothing to do with my data. It had everything to do with my dad pointing out to me a long time ago, you see Franson in clean pants, look out. But that's the kind of goofy stuff that happens at the track. But there's a reason that happens. You know, somewhere along the line, he went to Victory, Lane. He went to the winner's circle to get his picture taken, and the owner wasn't happy because he had dirty pants on. So now anytime he has a real legit shot to win a big race, he's wearing clean pants.
Yeah, I like it.
But he would even, like, there was one time where he was like a 4-5 favorite and had dirty pants on. I'm like, I ain't betting on this guy. I'm taking him out of my doubles even. But yeah, it's funny how the stuff you can pick up on. But yeah, it's, we're in a data-driven world here with fantasy football. But you got to look at the right data. And that's what we try to do here on the Science of Fantasy Football.
Well, Dennis, we'll know come the whenever, I don't know, January, whatever, whenever the final week 17 is. I hadn't even thought that far ahead, but we'll know when we're cashing them checks or not, or we're at the poorhouse, or I'm you and I are drinking our whiskey at London, Tennessee, or wherever to London, England. We'll know, and our wives are hitting us with their bags over the head.
Yeah.
We'll know if it was a sad year or a good year. So hopefully, here's to good years, Dennis, and I appreciate everything that you have taught me this season, your probability. I appreciate you sharing your secret stuff with me. We actually shared with the few that listened to us, and I hope that they benefited as well. And if the few that are listening, y'all let us know if we helped. I mean, so Dennis and I have a Triple Crown fund you can donate to, so we can feed the horses. So you're really not helping us. We're just moving the money over
you're helping
to help
feed
our
horses,
four-legged friends have some hay and oats. So that's coming. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Oh my goodness. And yes, we will be trying to attack the Breeders' Crown. Maybe we'll do a special Breeders' Crown show over on the sports affiliation for those guys.
Breeders' Cup.
Fun.
But Breeders' Crown too.
Cup. Breeders' Crown is for harness, but
I know, but
Breeders' Cup.
I could sit there and act like I know something about. I don't know anything about harness. I have the one system, Dennis. And that's where I took show bets on the one horse, figuring that he was on the rail and would travel the shortest distance. So that worked at Saratoga at the harness for about 3 or 4 races, and I lost one, and I think I had enough to buy some ice cream and Becky some chips. So that was it. That was the end of my one system. So it was a pleasant summer evening, and that was the time. And it was really family friendly. I found the harness, the one that I went to. It seemed like it was, kids running around. It was. I was hopeful that the kids will carry on the parents' tradition of enjoying a racetrack in the open air. I mean, there's something to be said for that. Maybe I'm just nostalgic as well about my, dad and going to the track with. But anyway, Dennis, we need to talk about week 1 and probably start the show here.
Let's get things rolling. Here we go.
Okay.
How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson. Welcome to the science of fantasy football. Why the science of fantasy football? Well, you get a meteorologist and a biologist together. They're going to use the scientific method, which is a much smarter way of handling statistics. How can I say that with so much certainty in a world of uncertainty? It's just because the scientific method means we're going to let the statistics guide us to an answer. We are not going to cherry pick those statistics to get them to say what we want them to say. And you know what Mr. Mark Twain said about that back in the day? He said there were three kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. When you cherry pick statistics, you're living up to that Mark Twain adage from so many years ago. But when you use the scientific method, you're at least being honest. Now, notice I didn't say you're going to be perfect and you're going to be right all the time, but you're going to use the statistics to guide you to an answer, and that is going to increase your probability of success. And join me as he does each and every week, and twice a week, and now actually going to be 3 times a week with the new show starting over at the Sports Affiliation. He is the fantasy professor. He's a real professor emeritus. It's John Bush. And John, the season is finally here.
Are you excited?
I am thrilled, man. I am thrilled. I love the NFL, but I love the NFL more because I love fantasy football so much. I love the competition. I like winning money. You notice I said I love the competition and I like winning the money because I play in some free leagues and I have just as much fun in the free leagues battling for bragging rights. But I kind of figure if we're going to put in as much time as you and I do in trying to figure this puzzle out, we might as well make some money along the way as well.
Yeah, I checked my bankroll last year, Dennis, and my Oakland sports betting. I was 28% ahead last year. I started with
Woo!
100, I have 128, but I remember that I won. I got myself out of the hole and won later in the season. So I'm just the data suggests I should wait further down before I get a little crazy. So I think I'm going to be cautious and be not aggressive at all until later when I think I've got a little bit more of our defense against position, our metrics, understand the depth charts. And that's what I say that pulled me out last year was the last 5, 6 weeks, Dennis. I was down. I think I had $60, maybe even $40, and I worked it all the way back up to a plus 28. So I think I learned the lesson. That's the first time I'd ever done any betting like that at all. So I'm still a $2 parlay better, and going to be cautious this year, Dennis. But I think we will mention things like that. I think people that may be a little bit more aggressive. And all I can say, keep your diary. I have the lesson. I pulled it out, for you guys to just an idea of how to start a diary. It's not too late, folks. And it's now's the time to pull your draft board out of all your leagues and start jotting some notes down, and then just going back after a month and just, hey, were you crazy? Why did I pick person A, B? Just look and see how nutty you were or not. And now's the time to get that data. Because if you don't, you know how easy it is to forget. And then next year, and you're thinking, well, and you don't think about what you did last year. Dennis, that's just a wasted experimental year. Just you didn't do your thing. You keep track of your experiments and your results.
And that's the key to the scientific method being successful is if you do the work of testing the hypothesis and coming up with a way to do that scientifically, and then apply it to your fantasy football teams and then grade the success or failure. And here's the thing is you got to understand why the failure happened. And notice I say why the failure happened, because even in a great season, you're going to have some bad leagues. You're going to have some bad teams. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes it just started off bad. Because I've got a couple of teams where I was, at the time I was drafting them, everything seemed to be making sense and you're following along with the strategy. You get to the end and you're like, okay, how the hell did I end up with this team? You just have some bad drafts. You're just going to. But that's why we always say if you're going to play $500 in fantasy football for the year, and for a lot of people, that's, comfortable money to lose if they were to do poorly. And anytime you're in any gambling situation, you need to attack it as if I am losing that money. That's got to be your mindset. Because if my mindset is, okay, I bet $500 on this over the course of all my leagues and I lost everything, it didn't affect my life, my living, didn't affect everything in the family. It didn't. That's the way you have to attack gambling. You're going to be right more often than you are wrong if you are good at any form of gambling. And in fantasy football, you're not playing against a pari-mutuel field like you are in horse racing, where there's a big rake, 15% rake of the money's coming out. And I got to be 15% better just to break even. Okay. In fantasy football, I just have to beat 11 people. That's it. I have to be better than 11 people. And generally speaking, I know by the time I'm about 5 rounds into the draft, how many really strong teams there are. How many good managers are there? When we were drafting Monday night in that sports affiliate league, the sports affiliation league, there were 14 people in there, so 13 people plus us. I'd say there were about 10 heavy hitters in there out of the 14. So that's going to be a fun league. And I really like the way our draft went. But I think there were some heavy hitters. Now, that was an unusual league because you had to draft to the points. It was an unusual point system with a lot of bonuses, a lot of big play bonuses, a lot of points for defenses. It was a complicated scoring system, and you and I did not overanalyze it. We used our methods and then a little common sense of going for a few more upside guys. And I was pleased with how the team came together. It's a 14-team league, and I think the more teams that are in a league, the more players that are in play every week in starting lineups, it benefits those who have done the research versus an 8-team league with just 7 starters.
Yeah.
You're going to be, everybody's going to have a good lineup. So it's a little bit more of a game of chance. When you get 14 and you've got, multiple flex positions and 3 wide receivers and a super flex and a, tough defense scoring and, all this stuff, it adds up to giving the edge to those who understand the game better. But again, if you're betting $500, you don't play one $500 league. And I don't even think you play $500 leagues. I would say I would want you in at least, I want $50 leagues. So I want you to be playing at least 10 leagues so you can spread out your risk. Because if it's a chance, if it's a flip of a coin, you're probably more likely to win money if you put it all on one flip of that coin.
Yeah.
I'm either going to win 500 or I'm going to lose 500. It's a total game of chance. But if I'm in a game of skill, and fantasy football is a game of skill, yes, there's some luck involved, but it's a game of skill. You can make your good luck pay off, and you can minimize the damage of your bad luck by smart play. And it's not just in the draft, it's all season long with waivers, which we will help people with throughout the course of the year. But, the point is, if you're betting, first of all, don't bet more than you can afford to lose. That goes with DFS, that goes with sports gambling on over-unders or parlays or anything. You don't risk money. You risk your fun money. Your money that I was going to go out and blow on anything. That kind of money is the money you risk in gambling. You never, ever get yourself in deep, because eventually there's a reason those sports books get bigger every year. They don't ever shrink, do they? It's because they win a lot. They're pretty smart folks out there in Vegas setting those lines, and but have some fun with it, but don't get in over your head. That's my number one advice. And my number two advice, Professor,
Uh-oh.
right now,
Yeah.
on the day before the season starts,
Yeah.
do not listen to coaches. Do not look at these depth charts and see these rookies third and fourth at the position on their depth chart. It's meaningless. Don't overreact to this early season depth chart game. If you have a question about a particular rookie and you don't think he's going to definitely get heavy usage in week one, that's why you draft a team that isn't all of rookies. You want to have some cagey veterans, your James Connors of the world, who aren't exciting necessarily, but are going to get you fantasy football points week in, week out. Those are the guys you want to build. You don't want a team of all rookies, but don't listen to the depth chart games. Justin Jefferson was like third on the depth chart as a rookie. He had a bad game, his first game, and people were almost ready to give up on him. And then he had, of course, the seasons one after another that have been fabulous. So don't listen to the coach speak. That is my advice as we get ready for game one on Thursday night.
So my, I guess, advice is routine. That's the key
Yes.
word. I have a routine based on every
Yep.
day. Okay. So whatever you think you need to do, write it down in your diary and think about next year what you need to do or don't do. I start setting next week's lineup sometimes Sunday night, Monday. I start thinking about waiver wires Sunday night, Monday. Uh, you know, and start getting some sense of what Vegas may be saying. And certainly by Tuesday, I've looked at the Vegas information. I'm starting to think about the snap data and targets and these kind of metrics, and not necessarily spending too much effort on the sensational, the guy you didn't think about that had two touchdowns that may not ever score again kind of thing, that you'll think is, the world beater. Just, we have a lot of those every year. Uh, there's a lot of variation in week one, so be very cautious. And my PPR per snap data from 2024 says week one is the worst for overall. And so I would urge you for week one to be cautious about your flexes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would go towards safety this week. Wait on the big swings. Okay. Wait on some of the second level rookies that may or may not share time with it. Just be cautious. See what the game script says. Okay, but routine. Start thinking about your waiver wires, setting your lineups. Who got injured? There's no bye weeks week 2, so we're okay there. But if there's bye weeks coming up, okay, who's on bye? All that I want to have some idea by the end of Tuesday night, so I have clarity. And our waivers run Thursday morning, right, for FFPC. So I like late waivers. Dennis, I know we're sharing the sleeper team that may have waivers earlier,
Yep.
so that
Yep.
that sucks. But a routine, and so I set lineups not to be done with them, but to make sure that I got live players in, and then start looking at defense data, what happened, any kind of late breaking news, and then switch accordingly. But I don't want to forget, because I got 40 leagues to manage. I don't want to forget about somebody who's going to
Yeah.
be, doubtful. I don't want to leave them in, or better have a plan, right? And my waivers might mean that I have to do an emergency pickup of one person. Just, I don't like them, but maybe they figure this week to accidentally get a touchdown. So as I'm going through the week, I'm focused more and more on my lineups and any kind of information here. And I like fab waivers, not first come, first serve, because fab means that you have an opportunity for anybody. It's not
Yeah.
just whoever was next to the keyboard when the somebody broke a leg or got frisked down in front of the stadium by the cops, right? Remember Tyreek?
Oh,
And then
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, and people were all crazy. And then these crazy European games where people are
Oh.
in or out by 7 or 8 o'clock. Who's awake by 7 or 8 o'clock? Come on now. My coffee ain't finished percolating by then. So anyway, get your routine, write it down, know what you're doing. If you've got a question, deeper question about routine, contact Dennis and I
Oh,
and
yeah.
ask us what we do. Okay, it's Wednesday. What are you guys doing? And email us a question. We can ask you about what we're doing Saturdays. That may be when, you're busy, you got a family, maybe Saturdays. That's fine if it's your routine, but you don't want to come off your routine. Okay. And if your
Yep.
routine is 5 minutes before kickoff, you're trying to do something, folks, you're going to make the wrong move. You're going to be
Yes.
on TV and some squawky is going to say this, and you're going to flip your stud out for the squawky's pick. And then all of a sudden, you got bit in the ass and you're mad. Don't be mad at Squawky. He's getting paid to squawk. Get mad at you because you listened to him, right? So just realize there are people paid to get loud, squawk, walk around, have charts and darts and dice and God knows what else they're using to pick these so-called sleepers or whatever they're picking. And folks, they're paid to get up there. They're entertainment. So that's what they're paid to do, not to make you a living at the casinos, Vegas, and your sports books making props. So come on, folks, get your head in the game and do not go out Saturday night and booze it up. Okay, if you got to booze it up, Friday night. Okay, so you can have Saturday to get your hangover and get real. But Saturday night, take care of your family and then get your routine going. No clowning around. Forget that. That's last year. No clowns this year. This is not a circus and you're not the clown. So do it right. Let's make some money.
And here's one simple technique that I have used. So I've got a lot of teams on Sleeper between redrafts and dynasty teams. I've got a ton of teams. I've got almost 40 teams to manage on Sleeper this year. And then I've got some best balls that I don't have to manage. Now, I do have some best ball dynasties, and I also have some open waivers best ball redraft leagues, which are really interesting because you can kind of play for some of the matchups with your marginal players. And there's small benches. So I'll have 2 or 3 spots on those benches where I will literally rotate players in and out on, not good players. You don't risk losing a good player, but maybe I got a good matchup and I got an injured guy and I've got a running back that's going to step up. I Those are guys I'm going to insert into the lineup for as many weeks as they're good, and then I'm going to drop them. But anyway, so I have 40 teams to manage, and what I do is I start at the top the first time I go through, and I'll go through so many until I'm pretty much tired of it,
Yeah.
and I'll get maybe through 10 or 15 teams, and then what I'll do is I'll pick up at the team that I left off at, and I'll continue down. But the next time I go into the leagues to manage those lineups, I start at the absolute bottom and I go up. So now the teams that are at the bottom of the list, just because of alphabetical or how long that team's been going in the leagues, if it's a dynasty team and it's an older team, it's probably down the list a little bit the way Sleeper organizes them. I don't really micromanage my organization of my leagues. But by starting at the top, starting at the bottom, and then the next time I start in the middle and I work up and down. And by doing that, you don't concentrate on one team or one set of teams over the others. You're kind of mixing and matching and you're keeping fresh looks at the teams. But I do a lot of that in advance. So I'll set up my lineups, and I will actually set up my lineups a lot of times where the guys who are questionable will end up in the flex to start the week because it forces me to look at them. Because what I'm going to do before Thursday games, I'm going to move my starters into a set position out of flex. And so if I've got the questionable guys down in flex, it also makes me look, okay, is there a health update on this guy? So that's the way that I have managed, and I have found that it takes me as much time to manage 40 teams as it did for doing like 5 to 10, because I've just gotten more precise in how I manage them. And I also agree with you. Working in advance is huge. So while I'm watching Monday Night Football and there's a commercial on, I'm starting to set my lineups for the following week because you can push ahead a week on all of your different league settings. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at week 2 on Monday night. So I start setting those lineups and getting the injured guys out because by then you know who's hurt and who might be hurt bad enough that they're going to miss a game or two. And I start making those moves on Monday night while I'm watching the games. And that way you can minimize how much time you have to take during the week. But having a routine, and the routine that works for the professor might not work for me.
Nope.
But I've learned from like an FPPC using a universal waiver move where you can do a waiver move over multiple teams, saves so much time. And we stream a lot of kickers and defenses. So we're moving our roster quite a bit. But don't overreact to what happens week 1. Don't overreact to coach speak. Don't overreact if a rookie who was highly touted gets only 5 touches week 1. Rookies have to earn their keep in the NFL. It doesn't matter if they're first round or 7th round or a UDFA. Rookies are not always trusted early by a coach. So don't panic.
Don't panic. Yeah, that's a good one, Dennis. So anyway, now's the time before you starts getting crazy because Thursday's coming and everybody's going to be squawking and everybody wants to say something. So it's coming. It's probably already started today. Fur is flying, picks and props, and it's just overboard, right? This is the first game of the season. It's like that first day of racing. It's like, man, I got that bankroll. And well, I guess I'll be coming back next year. I done blown my bankroll. Folks, you just never know about how things change. And, our information and understanding about teams is based on last year. Dennis and I are going to
Yes.
go over the Thursday and Friday games. We will have data based on last year because we don't have anything else. We have guesses and speculation. Dennis and I can do that, but I like some metrics to begin with. And so, yes, I will be starting defense against positions and efficiencies and these kind of things from last year because I don't have anything else, Dennis. I don't have a time machine. So that's a beginning. Dennis over the years, he has this knack of kind of warning us, like, there's been some changes and that's good. Just listen, Dennis. And we should make notes. How many warnings do you give us about this or that? And maybe quantify that in probabilities here.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dentist warning scale, right? Is it 0 or 5? Maybe that's what you ought to do. I don't know if it's too late. You know what I'm saying? Take every team. I know you just did your tip thing, but take every team, Dennis, based on what they did last year. How much do you think, in your opinion, has changed, and put that from 0 to 5, 5 being the most changes, and we can do some probabilities. We can check it out mid-season. It's a risk, right? Because you'll have to say, yeah, I was a big fool on these teams. But the good news, you'll be right about some, Dennis. So you're brave enough. I'm just saying, you're good at that. That's what you've been trained to do. You didn't know I was going to pull this out. So I'm challenging you once again. We had opportunity index pre-draft. I'm challenging you to give us your perception of the changes. I have
So,
found in horse racing,
yeah.
and I'll stop, that horses that come in new track, new
Oh,
surface, new trainer,
yes.
new jock
Yes.
are harder to figure out. Sometimes they're over or underplayed because there's so many changes versus, oh, these three went at it last week and it was 1, 2, 3. And people will tend to bet 1, 2, 3 because that's how it was last
Yep.
week. Well, it's a different surface, or things change. So, Dennis, why don't you, if you
So
have time this week?
I'm going to do it tomorrow morning because I already have an idea of how I can make this fit.
But I want to
Because
see zero, basically no major changes.
so
So if Philadelphia hasn't changed, they're a 0.
so I'm
Versus if Buffalo has changed so much, they're a 5. And that would be helpful for us to think about, and would be, where's the minefield, Dennis? You're showing us by
so
your
I'm
warning.
going to do that in a little different way though.
Okay,
Okay.
however you want to do that.
So I'm going to have a 5-point scale.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
3 is neutral
okay,
from last year to this year. A
okay,
4 or a
okay.
5 means that I feel like that team is going to be better
Okay.
offensively. I'm
I
only looking at the offenses.
offense,
Okay.
right?
Only going to look at the offenses. And yes, it's very important sometimes when you're trying to handicap the top end of things to understand where the defenses are. Because
Yes.
for instance, I love the passing game for Cincinnati because I think their defense is going to again be in the bottom
Hmm.
third of the league. Same
Right.
with Dallas. But when it comes to looking at offenses, and I'll tell you what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
So Giants, here are my concern teams. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead and spill the beans.
I was concerned about the Giants this year. And that's not saying that they're going to be, I think they're going to be better, but I'm still concerned about that offense.
Hmm.
I'm also concerned about the Saints. That's pretty
Pretty
obvious.
obvious. Yeah.
Quarterback issues. So I'm a little bit concerned about the Saints.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the Seahawks this year.
Hmm.
Um, Change of a lot of different things, and I'm a little concerned about that. So those are my three NFC teams that I'm a little bit scared of. On the AFC side, it's going to surprise you. One of the teams that's on this list, it's
Hmm.
the Dolphins. The Dolphins scare the hell out of me this
Hmm.
year because it's the Tyreek Hill thing, it's the Tua thing, it's the coach is probably on a very short leash. In the Dolphins, and again, not saying they're going to be a bad offense, but they just scare me. They scare me a little bit because
I
I
mean,
don't know
isn't
how the
Tua
read is.
one hit away
Tua's one hit
from
away.
maybe career ending?
You got A Shane who's coming into the season already with soft tissue issues. You got Tyreek and his issues. You got the coach who's talking weird, like he's saying weird things. And you've got just this. I'm just worried about them. I'm not saying that they're going to be worse offense, but I'm concerned about things that are going on. I'm also concerned about the Browns. They they're kind of a maybe train wreck. I'm also concerned about the Steelers. That's a team that I can't figure out when it comes to the offense. So those are the three teams in the AFC, and that's it. Everybody else, I'm kind of thinking, okay, there's reasons that this offense should be good. And I'm not saying that those six teams that I highlighted are going to have bad offenses. What I'm saying
Right.
is there's uncertainty. And
Right.
you know how I handled that uncertainty in my drafts?
No.
If I took a wide receiver from that team,
Hmm.
I most likely did not take the running back from the same team.
Gotcha.
So, for instance, with the Dolphins, if I took A Shane, I was probably steering away from the wide receivers.
Right.
If I didn't take A Shane on my team, I was probably taking Waddle a lot on those teams. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't go back and take the bargain running back in Ollie Gordon because late in a draft, I don't care who the guy's on. Does he have an opportunity to play? Does he have an opportunity for volume? That's all that matters. So I could he have a team with Waddle and Gordon, or a team even better with A Shane and Gordon. That's fine. But I'm not taking two guys at a premium pick. Like I had to spend a lot of draft capital to get either A Shane or Tyreek Hill or Waddle. Waddle was a little cheaper, obviously, but
Hmm.
I still wasn't going to spend something prior to the 10th round. I'm not going to spend two of my first nine picks
Hmm.
on the same team if there's uncertainty. Same thing with New Orleans. If I took, and I did take a lot of Kamara, I was probably staying away from Olave on those teams. If
Yeah.
I didn't get Kamara, I was probably leaning into Olave because he was priced cheap. But I didn't necessarily want both guys on the same team. If it just happened that on an occasional team I double up, that's fine. Okay. But going into the draft, it was an either or thing. Again, you're always adaptive. So there's no set in stone. If I take player A from the Giants, I'm not taking player B. I didn't play that game. I don't play that game. I don't keep myself rigid because what if that second guy drops another round or two past his ADP? Now I'm worth gambling on. But for the general purposes, I took Neighbors with the Giants and I stayed away from the running backs. Maybe Scatabo, stayed away from Tracy. I think he was a little too priced too high. He's priced where he should be. Like if he has a season like last year, that's what he's priced for. I'm not sure he's going to be playing back to those records. So if I grab Neighbors, I wasn't grabbing Tracy. So that's how I handle uncertainty, is just to avoid overexposure to the uncertainty. And that's the strategy that I have of handling it. Now that doesn't mean that I wouldn't end up with four players in the first 9 rounds off of four different uncertain teams. Because first of all, Neighbors was on an uncertain team last year with the Giants. How did he do? He did pretty damn good. So you can have an uncertain team and have a stud on that team. The Jaguars were an uncertain team last year. ETN wasn't good. Brian Thomas Jr. was great. But you notice both weren't great because there was a level of uncertainty to the team. That's how I handle dealing with uncertainty. And I got 3 teams in the NFC this year, 3 teams in the AFC. There's no magic number. I could have ended up with 0 teams. It doesn't mean there were 0 bad offense teams. It just means there were 0 teams that I was that uncertain about. And you notice the Dolphins could be one of the best offenses in the league, but they scare me because there's so many red flags waving. It's like the gale warning, it's like the hurricane warning sign going at the stadium. Gets me a little concerned. So don't lean into too much uncertainty and you'll be fine. Remember, the idea in the draft is not to beat yourself. Like you can worry, you can make dumb decisions during the year on starting and benching guys that'll cause you more losses. But in the draft, I don't like to set my team up for failure. That's it. And I took some gambles this year in the preseason drafts. I leaned into a lot of Rashee Rice because he was falling to a good price. Most of the teams, I had a backup plan. Some of the teams, I had a backup plan for week 4 or 5. Now that backup plan's got to go into work week 1. But still, what's the worst case? The worst case, I get to week 7 and I'm 3-3, or I'm 2-4. I can make ground up with Rashee Rice from that point on. I don't have Rashee Rice on all my teams for a reason. It was watching the value. And if he got to a certain level in the draft, if he fell far enough, and I had other plans in place, if I was getting him as my wide receiver 3 or 4, I was happy with that. Because no matter what happens now, he's just a bonus player at the end of the year. That's like a rookie. A rookie's going to be better in the second half of the season than they are in the first half. Most of the rookies. But don't put too many rookies on your team. Don't put, too many of the uncertain guys on your team, and you're going to be just fine in every draft.
So in a diary, folks, I would make note of how many rookies. I would make note of the stacks that you did on purpose and not.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe the dentist just told you and you're like, uh-oh, I did this. Make note of it. Just for your knowledge next year, so that if, Dennis's strategy helped you, but if you don't study that. So it just reminded me that in my diary video, Dennis, I really didn't, I probably need to update that. I need to put some notes down, but that's a good idea. Are you rookie heavy? Are you, uncertain team heavy in stacks?
Yeah.
Dennis, I stacked oppositely. I stacked Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
Higgins and I got Chase and Burrow. If I could do all that, but Jalen Hurts, I was able to get Brown, Devonta Smith, and Goddard on about 3 or 4 teams, Dennis.
Oh.
So, that was, I didn't, and I think I even drafted the kicker. So, I was just going probably too nuts, folks. So, but I know that. And so if that blows up in my face, I'll at least know. But I tried to stack on teams that I thought were interesting like that. And those were some of the teams that I did. I did stack Dallas a little bit. I thought Dak was fairly cheap.
Yeah.
I thought if you got Lamb, then you could also get Ferguson. So I actually had trifectas for Dallas later, and a few plays like that, and I probably need to go and print out my draft board and just make some scribble notes there, or take a picture of it and put it in PowerPoint and, scribble notes on it here. And I know it takes time, but really, it's think about this: one less whiskey sour you'll drink at happy hour, right? Just that time to guzzle that down and act a fool at the bar. You could be down, add a little bit to your diary, and then you won't be right at the mall with a funny sign saying I suck at fantasy football, or wearing a mask or some type of outlandish, or living at the Waffle House for 24 hours. You don't want to be humiliated by the goobers you hang with, right? Can you imagine walking in next year and you got your butt kicked? Man, nobody wants that. So now's the time to start that diary and break the cycle, folks. Break the cycle.
Yeah, and here's the thing when it comes to stacking, and I like the way you talk it, unintentional stacking. You didn't go out of your way to build these stacks, but they fell to you in the draft. They fell to you at a nice value. And it was like, yep, thank you very much. I'm gonna ride a good offense. And you weren't necessarily looking and saying, okay, I'm trying to stack a team that'll be great in weeks 15, 16, and 17 during the fantasy football playoffs. So much can happen between the start to the end of the season. We don't know what the strength of defenses will be by week 15, 16, or 17 because we don't know who's going to get hurt. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to not pan out. All we can plan for is if I've got a good offense, I want as many players from good offenses on my teams. If it ends up being a stack, fine. If it's not a stack, fine. I just want as many players. I have one team where I think I've got all of my starters, pretty much all of my starters from the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys and the Bengals. So from those teams, I've got almost all of my starters. I'm feeling good about that because while I'm not so much stacked, although on that team, I think I got Mahomes and Kelsey. And if I'm right about Mahomes and Kelsey, I'm going to do well. But the rest of the offensive players I have all players from really solid offenses. They should score a lot of points this year. And if I'm right about that, and again, it's not just me saying these are going to be strong offenses, it's the stats from last year and the likelihood of looking at those rosters and saying, I think the Cowboys and Bengals are going to be in the top third of the league. And I put the Chargers there along with the Chiefs as well. And those teams, I'll ride or die on those teams. And the Bengal of being in the top 10, I think I'll hit out of those 5 teams. I'll probably hit 4 or 5 or all 5 in the top 10 as far as offenses. And if you score a lot of points in real football, you got a chance of scoring a lot of points in fantasy football. Now we start out, Professor, with a Thursday night game.
Yeah, let me get my secret stuff here.
Going to be an interesting game, and I will, while you're getting the data together for those watching the video on scienceoffantasyfootball.com, I will set the stage for this because it's week 1. It's Philadelphia. It's a big rivalry, Dallas and Philadelphia, but probably 2 mismatched teams, although probably 2 good offensive teams. And here's the problem that we have is we could have rain for the game, and we could have a pretty strong southwest wind. Is that going to hurt our chances at a high-scoring game? That's to be determined because it's not a sure bet you're going to get wet at game time because it's a fast-moving front that is going to come through in the evening, could come through a little bit early, could come through a little bit later, and they could sneak the game in without the rain. But right now I'm saying I think it's going to be wet during the game. and I think they're going to be a strong enough southwest wind, maybe gusting as high as 25 miles an hour. That could be our first challenge from weather in the very first game of the year. How about that for adding even more uncertainty?
I don't like that. It's a Thursday game, and I don't like. And Friday,
Oh,
come on, man, Friday.
no, down in Sao
So
Paulo. Yeah.
it's, I thought it was here in America. Oh God.
No,
So
that one's
it's,
even worse. It's in
oh
Brazil.
my goodness. So they have all those weird mosquito diseases and stuff. Oh, it's just not good, Dennis.
27 shots for Taylor Swift and Kelsey. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dengue fever, uh, kissing bug disease. Oh, Dennis,
I just,
parasites.
I hope they don't leave the hotel. That's all I got to say.
Just drink bottled water, folks. Okay, don't eat the mystery roast. That could be capybara
Oh,
meat. That monkey meat. You don't know what the hell's in there. Boy, this tastes weird. Folks, you don't want any of that stuff out of the. No, no, no. You don't. You bring you some spam and peanut butter and live off that like safe food. So anyway, so Dennis, I've put up our metrics, and I'll include hard copies in our post of posting our video and the podcast and whatnot. This is just for kind of reference early in the season, about 2, 3 weeks in. This will completely go away, and I will use this year's data. But think about it, it's probably going to be about 5, 6 weeks before this is going to really have some weight. This is my efficiency metrics, which is team points scored, total yards gained by the team per second of offense. And I've got a secret equation, and it all works out. And then it's set on a scale of 100 to 0, and green is good, and red is not so good. So obviously Buffalo did well last year, Washington did well, Philadelphia, Detroit, Denver was okay, Cincinnati, and the bad teams, Cleveland really was bad. The Giants, San Francisco, Tennessee, New England, those guys were not the best in efficiency. Home away splits, Miami number one in home away,
wow.
35% more efficiency at home than away. Doesn't mean they were the best at home. It just means for them, the ratio was, biased to the home here. Let's see who's next. Denver was there, Arizona was there, San Francisco was there, New Orleans was there. The away teams, which always fascinates me, Dallas and Tennessee were the
Wow.
extreme away teams. How that happens, I still don't understand, but most of the other leagues is about okay. There was Indianapolis a little bit away, uh, but nothing really so. I mean, Giants did a little bit better away than home. Uh, Rushing and passing at home versus away, the ratio. So Arizona at home loves to rush the best, and of course, then there's Indianapolis, Green Bay, New England, the Jets, and San Francisco. Uh, those that don't like to rush at home, Dallas, I guess they're passing. Detroit passes at home. Houston, Vegas, those kind of things. And the passing players, Detroit, number one, Dennis, at home. So they hate to rush, but they love to pass at home. Very skewed metrics that way. Green
Interesting.
Bay loves to do both at home. So that probably means they suck away a lot. So it's really strange, New England there. Arizona doesn't like to pass at home, and that's strange. Indianapolis doesn't like to pass at home. Everybody else is a little bit close to the average. Tampa Bay likes to pass a little bit at home. So just give a taste, and that's where we're starting, right? This is not the end. We don't memorize this and forget it. It's going to change, but just these early couple weeks, just kind of in the back of your head, I'm going to have this data splayed out there, but just that might help you break ties if nothing else. But be cautious. Next data is, and I will update this, but this is Vegas a couple of days ago. I'm sure it's changed a little. I don't think anything dramatic's happened, but the highest scoring game is Sunday night, Buffalo and Baltimore, Dennis.
Wow.
So 50, and it
Whew.
was at 52, so it dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Philly, Dallas, and Indianapolis, Miami, Cincinnati, Cleveland. How about that? Green Bay and Detroit and Jacksonville, Carolina. And then the defensive team, Pittsburgh and the Jets, nobody's going to score there. 38. And then Arizona, New Orleans, that's probably not a surprise. Denver, the reason that game's so low is because basically Vegas says Denver just crushes Tennessee, has no hope, and so
Wow.
forth. So that just gives you an idea of the big spread is Denver. Look at that, 9 points above Tennessee. So they're going to spank
Whew.
Tennessee big time. And then Philly should just whop Dallas. Isn't that interesting? We'll talk more about that. The week one power ranks, Dennis. I know for tiebreakers and stuff, this is calculated for this year. The teams, team level, not personnel level, right? They're studs and you could have good players on bad teams kind of thing and bad players on good teams, so just use common sense. But here it is, the extremes are Detroit really looks to be the best on power rankings, and I'm not sure they're favored. And Tennessee, look at that, they're expected to be stomped, and is that any
Oof.
wonder there? And the Jets, the Saints are all expected to be whomped pretty good. Denver, Cincinnati, Arizona seem to be some of the better choices as well. And so, again, especially in your flex this week, I would be very cautious about, like, for instance, New Orleans. I'm a New Orleans fan. I drafted some Shaheed for bye week
Yes.
only and maybe a
Yes.
little bit of Olave protection. This is probably not my week to trot him out in a deep flex, Dennis. I'm just probably, if I'm playing Olave or nobody, probably, or Kamara or
Yep.
nobody.
Yep.
Not even sure I'd want to play both of those this week, but I'd have to think, depends on who else I have. But that's what I mean with tiebreakers. Those second, third wide receivers that you think have, you drafted with some upside. With this is not the week to go full tilt for upside, I don't think.
No.
So be
No.
cautious. Maybe you want to be a little bit aggressive with Detroit. Some of those, that wide receiver or two there. Maybe there's something happening there. Even Denver might have some deeper wide receiver activity. Cincinnati, I mean, it's Chase and Higgins there, but
Right.
maybe Gasecki, maybe there's a tight end of avenue for a catch or two. Arizona might have something going. Certainly McBride and so forth. So Atlanta there, maybe Daryl Mooney. So those would be where I might a gamble on the better predicted teams, but that's not still not a guarantee for me because I'm not forcing anybody in this week, Dennis, regardless of how good or how much Squawky says. Because, see, to me, those folks on the TV, that's just like they're just little, those talking parrots you see at the toy store that you push the button and you say something and they squawk back at you, your voice. And the kids love it, the dogs love it because I tease my dogs with the Squawky the parrot. But that's how they sound to me. They're paid to squawk and get loud with each other. And the louder they are, the more likely you think they know something. And I don't know if that's the case. So be
Now,
cautious
usually,
here. Yeah,
it,
Dennis,
it,
I didn't want to get cranked up here.
it,
So
it-
I'm going to stop right here and let you go through what I just did, and then we'll hit the first game.
yeah, just a reminder that the Squawkies have been picking against the Chiefs, making it to winning the conference championship even over the last 3 or 4 seasons. They've been coming up with excuses why the Chiefs were not going to be good. Squawky is not somebody to listen to at
No.
all. And here's the one rule that I have is like if they're healthy going into week one, if I drafted a guy in the first 5 draft picks that I made, first 5 rounds of the draft, I'm playing him. I'm not even going to get cute. Like the first 5 guys you took them for a reason. Find a way into the lineup for all of them. And that means if you pick 3 running backs in the first 5, they're all in your starting lineup. That's the simple rule that I have for my teams. If they're healthy, my first 5 picks are in my starting lineup. I don't overthink it. There was a reason that I drafted them in the top 5 rounds. Play them and don't beat yourself with a silly decision. Detroit's power ranking is so much higher than everybody else's. That is such an interesting deal because we see the home away splits and they are on the road week one against Green Bay. Now, it should be a beautiful night up there in your beautiful afternoon in Green Bay, so I'm not expecting any weather. But I find this data fascinating because there are things in the predictive nature of using experts' rankings that then don't match up with what Vegas is saying. And I find that very curious each and every week. But let's dive into Thursday night football with the weather uncertainty. Dallas at Philadelphia. Philadelphia, of course, getting to celebrate on ring night, getting their championship rings. Dallas celebrating not
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
But I do point out that there's actually something really cool happening with the Dallas Cowboys this year. There's a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader that has a family heritage
Oh,
of being a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. Her grandmother
wow.
was on the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader staff the last time they won a Super Bowl. I
Not,
find that amazing.
not nice.
Yes.
31-16, spread a touchdown, 47 and a half. Should be
Oof.
high flying, but Vegas says all the points are shifting to Philly. Dallas has no shot. When you see something like this, yeah. And look at the DAPS again, folks. Last year's data, so it does look bad for Dallas, right? It doesn't mean there won't be garbage time. I would still play CeeDee Lamb. Okay, I'm not sure I'm playing the running backs, but you didn't draft those running backs early to play them anyway.
No.
But you
No.
drafted CeeDee Lamb. I don't think you can walk away, but I don't. I would be happy with the touchdown. This doesn't figure to be a multi-touchdown day for Lamb. It would obviously be a treat for those who draft him. I drafted him. Don't know about Ferguson. If I've got a better streaming choice, I'm not sure I'm playing Ferguson this first week. Again, I'm not trying to shoehorn anybody in. I'm not playing. You could go Philly D, but I think they're better streamers. And just jump in, Dennis. My streamers for the week: Arizona,
Yeah.
New England, and Washington
Yes.
were my top
Yes.
three that I drafted for week one. If you don't have like Denver, some of the obvious choices, I I drafted the last round or two, so I just People were taking kickers and stuff around 14. And so, Dennis, it was crazy. Round 14 is where I've got all I can eat, upside running backs and whatnot.
Yes.
And I don't have time to waste those picks on a place kicker or a defense. There's too many other goodies I want to hoard and forage. Dennis taught me that. That is forage and hoarding time, folks, for extra things and surprise players and upside and about playoff time they come awake. That's where you'll find a lot of those the pukas and if there is a puka this year, they're probably in that range. That's going to surprise everybody. So again, Dallas, you got to play Lamb. Philly, looks like you could about play everybody except old Goddard. He might accidentally catch a tip ball from A.J. Brown in the end zone. So Goddard could even celebrate in. But my stacks, I'm definitely playing Devona, playing Brown, playing, let's see, Barkley, playing them all day long, Dennis. Hurts for some tush pushing. Like I said, I don't say that outside here in Arkansas. I don't talk about that guy talking about pushing tushes. Don't want to
Ooh,
crank the hillbillies up there.
you saw Deliverance. You
Yeah,
stay away
yeah. I
from
don't
that
need
talk.
any
Yeah.
of that pretty mouth business. And Dallas tends to want to pass in a way. 14% pass. No, for 14% less pass. They want to rush. They can't do that. So their tendency is exactly opposite what I think Philly's going to give them. So Javonte Williams got to he needs to earn his biscuits tonight for Dallas to have any shot with Dak just throwing it up, in the fourth quarter and trying to make a garbage time comeback. That's what it looks to me. Uh, I think Philly's going to get ahead 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I think they're going to put Barkley or whoever, maybe even I don't know who else is under Barkley that they may get some playing time if it gets out of hand. Philly at home uh, loves to be balanced. They'll pass a little bit more, but really nothing dramatic last year. So 1 and 105 means they were balanced as hell. Dallas was unbalanced in things. So balance, and that's something interesting. I haven't tracked, Dennis. If you look at the skew of the balance, you could subtract those. What does that mean for people? In like Vegas props and bettings, and what I'm saying is that telling us something. Having a last year's tendency that be could be on the poster board there is tracking efficiency, and that could be one metric to ask the question: is that predictive? Teams that were unbalanced
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year, how do they do the next? Are they still does that carry over, or does it flip flop, or does it not? I'd be curious now that I see that. Dennis, I've been staring this data for 3 or 4 years, and it just hit me, folks. That's what it is about research questions. Is sometimes you forget or don't ever think about it, but that just hit me. Unbalanced. You could describe Dallas as unbalanced and Philly as balanced. Maybe that means something in props and stuff too. I don't know, folks. Don't go crazy. I'm just saying. I note that. Put it in your diary. I'll put it in mine, and we might follow this. If I remember to look at my diary, Dennis, I forget where my diary goes. Dog could tear it up. Go ahead. Or you want to look at the
Yeah.
uncertainty players or anything?
Well, yeah. Here's the thing: is
Okay, you go.
let's before we look at that, I
Okay.
think this is going to be a closer game, but
Ooh.
I'm a little. I would not make a bet on the spread here. The spread has actually gone up to 8.5. The over under has stayed the same at 47.5. The only bet I like in this game
Mm-hmm.
is the under. I think both teams will not come out with their guns blazing on offense. Uh, the Philadelphia defense, I don't think is quite as stout as it was when this data was established.
Yep.
The Dallas defense, I think, is going to live up to these DAP calls. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. Play Lamb. I would hesitate to play anybody else on Dallas. And for Philadelphia, I'm playing everybody but Goddard here. Love the opportunities. I'm not playing the defenses in either one of these teams. They're only because there's better options available.
Yep. I do have this for your knowledge here. This is my player rankings and whatnot, and I probably should make it a little bigger here. So we have uncertainty means how close has the player in the past really performed well. If it's a good green number, then they've done well relative to what people thought they would do. And so Lamb is 97, Dennis. Average uncertainty, that's as good as you can get. It does like Pickens, but it's a little higher uncertainty. So we're not sure what we're getting there, Dennis. That could
Yeah.
be, he could get a garbage time, but I think I would like Lamb. And Ferguson at 50, that's about mediocre average. So I'm not doing Javante's 48. There's nothing there. Dak at 35. If I drafted Dak as my one, I probably have streamer options, and I'm gonna look hard at who's my streamer and do they have a better opportunity. May not have. I may have to hope Dak gets me 200 plus a garbage, and doesn't turn it over some good garbage touchdowns. Get me 19 points and get me out of this. Might be as best I can do. Here's Philly. Jalen Hurts, 82's nice. Saquon, 87, nice. The Eagles, pretty good defense. Brown and Devona all day long. Goddard, it's like Ferguson. Okay, so you probably don't want to play him. So, but this just gives you a starting point. This is not the ending point for my rankings here, folks. So just don't get tricked by that. Regardless of rankings, I never am, just stuck to my rankings, folks. I couldn't do it to myself to do that. So anyway, that's that, Dennis. Any other comments before we leave? If it
Yeah,
rains heavy, is that some of your under
yeah.
thinking?
I think my under is going to go into wet turf and also
That could be
into some
slippery.
crosswind and
That can be a
some
little tricky.
rain during the game, and that's there's even a chance that we could have a lightning delay here, which really seems to mess up offenses quite
Oh,
a bit.
how
So
can it not? And they cool
yeah,
down
they
and
cool down and then they have to warm back up. There's just so much uncertainty with the weather that goes to the under. Plus, it's Thursday night and it's
I
the
hate Thursday.
first game of the year, so a lot of uncertainty there. I have a lot of teams where I drafted Dak and Baker or Dak and Love, and
I'm
I already
probably
got
flipping elsewhere. I
I'm
agree.
going. Yeah, Dak is not going to get in many starting lineups for me this week. Friday night, heading to Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Oh my
The
goodness.
Chargers are officially the home team, but both are road teams this
Yes.
week down in Sao Paulo. Now, I will say this:
Okay.
unlike some of the European games where it was uncertain what the turf was going to be like, we do have at this stadium an idea of what the turf is going to be like because they have the exact same turf system from the Netherlands that Philadelphia uses at
Oh.
home and that Green Bay uses up at Lambeau Field. So we've seen this hybrid turf. It's a natural turf with some embedded artificial fibers. And the idea is that it will wear better over the course of a long season. That's the turf that they use down there at Sao Paulo, Brazil. It's one of their premium, one of the best, top of the line soccer stadiums, and is in primo condition. This isn't like going to Mexico City a few years ago where there was so many questions about the turf. It wasn't like going to some of the European games where there was some question how a turf field for soccer was going to carry over to football. This is the same turf that's used in Philadelphia and in Green Bay, so we know what to expect.
That's nice. I don't want any players hurt, and they're going to
Yes.
be tired and jet lagged, and
Oh.
I just hate that. There's millions of dollars on the line with these. I just don't know them playing down. I don't know. If I was in the players union, I'm not sure I'd go for that. But anyway, who am I? I'm nothing, nobody. Okay. So spread is 3. Vegas 35, 30, I'm sorry, 25, 35. Yeah, Dennis says, yeah, 35. 26-20. Maybe the last team has a chance for some garbage theatrics, maybe. I hope. Uh, I drafted a lot more Mahomes and Kelsey stacks than I did Chargers. So I'm not that I'm a fan of Kansas City because, they basically own the Hall of Fame if you've ever been there. And the Saints broom closet there. So if Kansas City wins the Super Bowl again, they're just going to have the Kansas City story. They're going to build a second story on that football. And they're just going to have, they have to raise it up. And it's the Kansas City Memorial Wing, the
Well,
story.
when we're in Canton, we saw them doing construction. Maybe it's the new
Yeah,
Chiefs wing.
Dennis. Yeah, they'll have Taylor Swift music, I know,
Oh,
and
there it
shaking it
is.
off and
Beautiful.
yeah, all that business and
It's
and
the engagement era.
they'll have the honorary bags for the Saints fan to walk around and
Oh,
just
there you go.
stare at what a
I
real
love it.
team looks like.
There you go.
You open the Drew Brees closet and grab a bag and close the door on Drew's cutout and go walking around. But by the way, when I went to the gift shop, Dennis, they had like 3 shirts for the Saints. It's
Yeah.
like they had it was red with Kansas City shirts and bobbleheads, chewing gum, and house slippers and robes and the Saints have old moth-eaten shirts over here in the corner. Dude's like, Saints, Saints. Let's see, where do we keep those? It took me back in the janitor's closet next to Drew, and there were some old shirts here, and I just refused to buy any there. So anyway, y'all can do better down there. Get some Saints stuff. Come on. Uh, so it looks like Kansas City on paper should take care. What does the defense look like? Well, Dennis, the Chargers might give everybody a little toughness there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Xavier Worthy has an opportunity, or even Hollywood Brown,
Oh,
Dennis,
yes.
should be able to collect some catches. And I think Mahomes will do what he needs to. And I think Pacheco, there's nothing there in the DAPs that say they can't do it. I'm worried about Kelsey, Dennis. I will play Kelsey, but I am touchdown negative about him. I'm hoping he'll get me, the usual, 13 points or 14, and I will be happy given how tough the Chargers were rough and tough. Don't
Oh,
play
yeah.
the kicker and the defense as well. So I think Kansas City should have its way in the passing and running. I think they will stay balanced, Dennis, as long as it doesn't get crazy, and I
Yes.
don't expect anything to get just absolutely nutty. Chargers, on the other hand, KC's D is real. They're going to punish the running back, so that rookie or whatever, I don't know. If you got another choice, I'm not sure I'd play him. Looks like they'll be passing, and their tight end has an opportunity to do something. I don't even know who the tight end is. Let's see, the tight end
Is it?
is Conklin. He's got an opportunity, but I got him at 28, so I'm Disley, I don't know. I'd have to get some hellacious prop odds to play any one of those tight ends there, Dennis. Uh, Kansas City at away loves to. They're basically they don't like to rush or pass a lot away, 7% and 10% less because their defense tends to step up in away games for them over the
Yep.
years. So
Yep.
I don't. That's not a metric I'm catching, but to see that both going down with away, and yet KC did pretty good last year, that tells me the defense probably stepped it up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Chargers being away, they're plus 9 rushing, passing's the same. So they're going to want to rush, and KC says, "Come on, big boys, we will spank you big time." I've got the Hampton at 68. That's a RB2 type, maybe at best. I don't know what your MVP has, his ceiling, but this game, given this DAP, 68 is not something I would like to play in a tough DAP. I would find another player if I could.
Yeah.
Harris might be better than we think. Old Patches there might accidentally catch something. So probably only in props or something would I do. Herbert is at 38, not looking good. The kicker is good, but this is a tough situation. Mahomes 62, Dennis. So even he's going to be a little tough this week because of the Chargers. Pacheco's 57. Don't know, but I got Kelsey. But he's high in certainty, Dennis.
Yeah,
I think
that makes sense.
Worthy, and I got a little bit on Hollywood. So they have low uncertainty. So I'm thinking there's the play. So goes the KC. If Kelsey's doing, just ball control and Pacheco's just keeping them honest, then Worthy and Hollywood's got to step up. I maybe maybe Juju gets some juju and wakes up for this game, Dennis. What you think, KC fan?
Well, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I like Kansas City's chances of winning this one. I do think it's going to be under. Also, I feel better about the under than I do about
Well, the
the
DAPS would
KC.
certainly imply
Yeah, yeah.
it's going to be tough.
I think this is a game that I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the upper 30s, right around 40.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a comfortable under bet for me. As far as the players go, the only player who is going to miss this game for sure is Jalen Royals, one of the
Oh,
backup wide receivers for Kansas City. He did not make the flight
okay. Well, I
yesterday.
had him listed because I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
he didn't
But
make the flight yesterday, but
what's
he
his
was
outlook, by the way? You're a
he's an interesting player.
Yeah,
It's
somebody for us to watch if there's another injury
yes,
before Rice comes back.
I would definitely keep an eye on him. In DFS, I might take a gamble on Juju Smith-Schuster in this
See,
one.
I just got a feeling that he could surprise us here
Yes, yeah, and
with, but I'd want odds though, Dennis.
oh
I
yeah, yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
not take.
You got to
Yeah, you
get
got to
odds
get
on
some
this one.
odds there.
But I
Yeah,
want to see where his prop is because it's is if they published a prop on him, it's got to be pretty darn low.
that's what I'm thinking. Maybe
And I'm
one
looking,
catch, he could
yeah,
get 20, 30 yards.
yeah. So I like his chances on being a marginal player in here. You never worry about Kelsey with an extra tough matchup because he will find a way, and the KC offense will find a way to script him open one or two times, even against a tough defense. As far as the Chargers go, I agree with you. I'd stay away from the running game. I like McConkey in this one, and that's about it. Other than McConkey, I'm
McConkey,
not
I
sure I
got at
would.
78, so that's a
Yeah.
borderline WR21, right? I mean, that is right there
Yes.
on the line,
Yeah.
Dennis, and low uncertainty. So I think he's going to get fed, folks. So I think in PPR, eh, now that Dennis mentions him, and
It, and
I would probably, yeah,
the
I'd
Chiefs
probably play him.
defense, the
Yeah.
Chiefs defense does a lot of this bend don't break thing. So that's why I think Dicker is a good play at kicker. because I think he'll get some opportunities here. I think it'll be I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 4 field goals.
Wow.
If
That
they
would
can,
be a hell of a prop there. Get a
yep, if
Juju
they can,
and a
yeah,
Dicker parlay going there. There you
yeah,
go. There's your
if
parlay.
there's your parlay, because I think if the Chargers can move the ball, and I think the Chiefs' defense is a little weaker than they were at this time last year. No Justin Reed, and I know Justin Reed on his own. If you look at the stat lines and everything else, you go, well, that's not a big loss. It was a big loss because he was like the quarterback of the defense, and without him to hold a very talented but very young secondary together, I'm just not sure what we're going to see. What I expect to see is really good, tough play,
Oh,
and then getting beat on a couple of long plays. So that's
nice.
why I like McConkey here. McConkey will probably break a 35, 40-yard gainer against a tough defense, because the Chiefs like to gamble. They like to put pressure on you. They like to go and try to hit you hard. And every once in a while, when you do that, you're going to get burned for a big play. But I don't think Casey will be burned for enough big plays, so I'll take him -3, and I'll take the under in this one.
Nice, nice. Well, that is great, Dennis. I think we finished our first serious Thursday, Friday night special here, and not looking forward to Thursday or Brazil games, but I will enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to the weekend and feeling normal again on the red zone.
There you go. Although
Hmm.
they did announce today that there will be commercial breaks
What?
on Red Zone this year.
Boo.
ESPN took over. Uh, we're still going to have Scott Hansen, but remember, towards the end of last season, we had a couple of commercials on Red Zone because he was no longer able to say, "Here comes 7.5 hours of commercial-free football." Can't say that anymore, but it still is a great way to watch football on a Sunday. So head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. Check out all of this data from the professor, because it'll be up there for Thursday and Friday, and
Yep.
he'll have it in time for you to make those decisions
Yep.
on the weekend. I've
Yep.
got another article coming where I'm planting my flag on the best players per round. Yeah, I know it's too late for your draft. I just want to go on record. If you've been listening and you've been reading at Science of Fantasy Football, none of these players have come as a surprise, because we've been talking about them all year long. And I mean all year long, because we have been with you during the off season all the way up to opening day. But it's just my way of putting myself on record, and it's done a fun horse racing tip sheet type of way. If you're familiar with horse racing tip sheets, I think you'll enjoy it even more. But even if you don't, it's putting me on record of who I think the best players will be. Head on back here again on Saturday for our regular look at the Sunday lineups, but also on Saturday we will be on the Sports Affiliation website with the new show
New.
called the Matchup Lab. We are excited about joining with the Sports Affiliation gang. And of course, come on back here for another edition of the Science of Fantasy Football.
Get to work, folks.
Yeah, I'm really charged up about having that new show. I
Yep.
think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it will too, Dennis, and I think so here. Whew. Your voice kind of crackling towards the end, butter.
It's breaking up, man. It's breaking up. It's been a long day, but a fun day.
Were you on
And
the radio today?
I was on the radio today. I did a couple of interviews today as
Nice,
well,
nice.
and a little mini meeting with my boss.
Okay. Well, probably should
And
stop recording then
all
before
went
you talk
well.
sweet about him.
Oh,
Okay.
you, Chad